The stars were quiet that night. Captain Park Do-hyun stood at the bridge of the UESS Resolve, watching the endless black through the main viewport. His ship was not large or powerful. It was a mid-sized escort vessel designed to protect cargo ships and passenger liners. But Do-hyun loved it. He had commanded the Resolve for 7 years, and it felt like home. Behind his ship, 12 vessels moved in careful formation. This was Convoy Echo 7. There were cargo ships carrying medicine and food. There were transport vessels loaded with farming equipment and building materials. And at the center of the formation was the Morning Star, a passenger liner carrying 300 civilians to a new colony world. Do-hyun turned away from the viewport and looked at his crew. Lieutenant Commander Yoon Ji-soo sat at the tactical station, her eyes moving across multiple screens at once. She was young for her rank, only 32, but she was the sharpest officer Do-hyun had ever worked with. Nothing escaped her attention. At the engineering console, Chief Engineer Baek Sun-ho was drinking his 4th cup of coffee. The old man had been in space longer than anyone on the ship. His hair was gray and his hands were rough, but he could fix anything. He often said that the Resolve only worked because he asked it nicely. The convoy was passing through the Kira Expanse, a region of space that belonged to no one. It was the fastest route to the colony on Eridan 4, but it was also dangerous. Pirates sometimes hunted in these empty spaces. Do-hyun had requested 2 more escort ships, but command had refused. Resources were limited, they said. The route was probably safe, they said. Do-hyun did not like the word probably. On the Morning Star, life was peaceful. The passenger liner was comfortable and bright, designed to make the long journey feel less lonely. Families ate dinner together in the main hall. Children played in the recreation rooms. Old people sat by the windows and watched the stars pass by. Dr. Kim Yoon-ji worked in the medical bay on Deck 4. She was a small woman with kind eyes and steady hands. She had joined this convoy because the colony on Eridan 4 desperately needed doctors. Their last physician had died 6 months ago, and the colonists were struggling with illness and injury. Yoon-ji wanted to help. Tonight she was treating a young boy named June. He was only 8 years old, and he had a high fever. His mother, a teacher named Han Mi-young, sat beside him and held his hand. Mi-young's daughter, a girl of 12 named Sarah, waited outside the medical bay, reading a book on her tablet. "Will he be okay?" Mi-young asked. Her voice was calm, but her eyes showed fear. Yoon-ji smiled gently. "It is just a common virus. Many children get it during space travel. He will feel better in a day or 2. She prepared an injection to reduce the fever. "You should rest too, Mi-young. You look tired." "I cannot sleep well in space," Mi-young admitted. "I keep thinking about the new colony. Will it be safe? Will there be a good school for my children?" "Eridan 4 is a good world," Yoon-ji said. "I have read the reports. The colony is small, but the people there are kind. Your children will be happy." Mi-young nodded slowly. She wanted to believe it. She had sold everything on Earth to give her children a fresh start. Her husband had died 3 years ago, and life on the homeworld had become too hard. This colony was supposed to be their new beginning. On the bridge of the Resolve, Ji-soo suddenly straightened in her chair. "Captain," she said. Her voice was sharp. "I am detecting unusual readings at the edge of sensor range." Do-hyun walked to her station immediately. "What kind of readings?" "Energy signatures, multiple contacts." Her fingers moved across the console. "They appeared suddenly. No gradual approach. They came out of hyperspace." "How many?" Ji-soo was silent for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice was very quiet. 32 contacts, sir. They are warships." Do-hyun felt his blood turn cold. 32 warships. The Resolve was alone. 1 escort vessel against 32 enemies. "Can you identify them?" he asked. "Working on it." Ji-soo enhanced the sensor image. The symbol on the warships became clear. It was a broken circle surrounding a clenched fist. Vthrani Dominion. The bridge went silent. Everyone knew that name. The Vthrani were an old and powerful race. They had conquered many worlds. They hated humanity because humans expanded too fast, because humans did not show proper respect, because humans were young and confident, and the Vthrani could not control them. But the Vthrani had never attacked a human convoy before. This was supposed to be neutral space. "They are moving to surround us," Jisoo reported. "Formation suggests an attack pattern." "Hail them," Do-hyun ordered. "Tell them we are a civilian convoy. We are carrying medicine and colonists. We are no threat to them." The communications officer sent the message. There was no response. The Vthrani fleet spread out like a net, blocking every escape route. Their weapons began to charge. Do-hyun could see the energy building on his tactical display. There would be no negotiation. There would be no mercy. "All hands to battle stations," Do-hyun said. His voice was steady, even though his heart was pounding. "Signal the convoy to scatter. Tell them to run for the nearest human outpost." "Sir," Jisoo said, "we cannot fight 32 warships. We will be destroyed." "I know." Do-hyun looked at his crew. These people had served with him for years. They trusted him. They were going to die because of him. "But if we can delay them even for a few minutes, some of the civilian ships might escape." Baek Soon-ho stood up from his console. The old engineer's face was grim. "I will push the engines as hard as I can, Captain. The Resolve will give you everything she has." "Thank you, Soon-ho." Do-hyun turned back to the viewport. The Vthrani ships were close now. He could see their shapes against the stars, dark and angular, built only for war. Behind him, the convoy ships were beginning to scatter. The Morning Star turned slowly, her engines firing at maximum power. But passenger liners were not fast. They were not designed to run from warships. The first Vthrani weapon fired. A beam of blue light cut through space and struck one of the cargo ships. The vessel exploded instantly. Debris scattered across the darkness. "Return fire," Do-hyun commanded. "All weapons. Target their lead ship." The Resolve was small, but her weapons were good. Human technology was advanced, even if human fleets were not large. Energy beams and missiles flew toward the Vthrani formation. One enemy ship took damage. Another had to adjust its shields. But it was not enough. It would never be enough. On the Morning Star, the passengers felt the ship shake as nearby explosions rocked the convoy. Alarms began to sound. Crew members ran through the corridors, shouting for everyone to reach the escape pods. Dr. Kim Yoonji held the young boy Jun against her chest as the medical bay trembled. Han Mi-young grabbed her hand, terror in her eyes. Somewhere nearby they could hear Sarah screaming for her mother. "We need to move," Yoonji said. "Now!" They ran into the corridor, joining the crowd of frightened passengers. Lights flickered overhead. The sound of weapons fire echoed through the hull. Outside the viewports, they could see the Resolve fighting alone against the swarm of enemy ships. Yoonji looked at that small, brave vessel and felt tears in her eyes. She knew no one was coming to save them. High Marshal Torvin stood on the command deck of his flagship, the Iron Dominion. He was tall even for a Vthrani, with gray skin and 4 arms folded behind his back. His eyes were black and cold, like the space between stars. He had commanded fleets for 200 years. He had conquered 11 worlds. He had never known defeat. Today's mission was simple. The humans had been growing too bold. They spread across the galaxy like insects, building colonies everywhere, making friends with other races, acting as if they belonged here. The Vthrani High Council had decided to remind them of their place. A civilian convoy was the perfect target. Weak. Unprotected, easy to destroy. And when the humans found the wreckage, they would understand the message. Stay in your corner of space or face destruction. "Status report," Torvin commanded. His tactical officer responded quickly. "The human escort vessel is still fighting, High Marshal. They have damaged 2 of our cruisers. 1 small ship against our entire fleet." Torvin made a sound of contempt. "Humans are foolish. They should have surrendered the moment we arrived. Their civilian vessels are trying to scatter. Should we pursue?" "Of course. No survivors. Those are our orders." Torvin watched the battle on his display. The human escort was moving with surprising skill, darting between larger ships, firing at weak points. Their captain was talented. "Concentrate fire on that escort. I want it destroyed." On the Resolve, Captain Park Do-hyun was bleeding from a wound on his forehead. The bridge had taken a direct hit, and part of the ceiling had collapsed. 2 of his officers were dead, but the ship was still fighting. "Shields at 12%, Jisoo reported. Her console was sparking, but she refused to leave her post. "Hull breaches on decks 3 through 7. We have lost the port weapons array." "Keep firing the starboard weapons," Do-hyun ordered. "Target their formation. Make them work to kill us." "Captain," Baek Soon-ho said through the intercom. His voice was strained. "The reactor is overheating. I can give you 5 more minutes of combat power. After that, we are dead in space." 5 minutes is enough." Do-hyun pulled up the tactical display. The civilian ships were scattering, but the Vthrani were hunting them down one by one. He counted 6 convoy vessels already destroyed. The Morning Star was still running, her engines burning bright. She was the largest target. The Vthrani would focus on her soon. "Jisoo, plot an intercept course. Put us between the Morning Star and the nearest enemy ships." "Sir, that will expose us to fire from multiple angles." "I know. Do it anyway." The Resolve turned hard, her damaged engines screaming in protest. She placed herself directly in the path of 3 Vthrani cruisers that were closing on the passenger liner. Do-hyun opened fire with everything he had left. On the Morning Star, chaos filled every corridor. People were pushing and shoving, trying to reach the escape pods. Some were crying, some were praying, some were simply frozen with fear. Dr. Kim Yoonji held tight to young June as she ran. Han Mi-young was beside her, dragging her daughter Sarah by the hand. They reached a section of corridor where an escape pod station was located. The door was open, and people were climbing inside. "Get in," Yoonji said, pushing Mi-young toward the pod. "Take your children and go." "What about you?" "I need to help the others. There are injured people who cannot walk. I have to find them." "You will die," Mi-young said. Tears were running down her face. "Maybe. But I am a doctor. I cannot leave people behind." Yoonji knelt down and looked at June. The boy was terrified, his fever forgotten in the face of real danger. She touched his cheek gently. "You are going to be okay. Your mother will protect you." She stood up and ran back down the corridor before anyone could stop her. The escape pod launched seconds later. Mi-young watched through the small window as the Morning Star grew smaller behind them. Then she saw something that made her scream. A Vthrani ship was targeting their escape pod. A beam of blue light reached toward them. The pod exploded. Mi-young, Sarah, and June died instantly, along with 40 other civilians. They never had a chance. Across the battlefield, similar scenes repeated again and again. Escape pods launched from dying ships, and Vthrani weapons destroyed them without hesitation. The enemy fleet was not trying to capture anyone. They were not interested in hostages or negotiations. They wanted every human dead. On the bridge of the Resolve, Do-hyun watched it happen. He saw the escape pods die. He saw the passenger liner take hit after hit. He felt something break inside him. "They are killing the escape pods," Jisoo whispered. Her voice was hollow. "They are murdering survivors." "I see it." Do-hyun's hands tightened on the arms of his command chair. "Soon-ho, I need you to do something for me." "Anything, Captain?" "Our emergency beacon. Can you modify it to carry a data burst?" Everything our sensors have recorded today, every moment of this attack. Yes, it will take 2 minutes. Do it. Aim it at the nearest human relay station. The galaxy needs to see what the Vthrani have done here. The Morning Star finally broke apart. Her hull shattered under concentrated fire, and her reactor went critical. The explosion lit up the darkness like a small sun. Dr. Kim Yoonji died somewhere in that fire, along with 300 other souls. Do-yun did not look away. He watched until the light faded. He owed them that much. "Beacon is ready," Sunho reported. "Launching now." A small capsule ejected from the Resolve and shot away at high speed. It was too small and too fast for the Vthrani to notice. In a few hours, it would reach human space. The truth would be known. "Captain," Jisoo said softly, "all other convoy vessels have been destroyed. We are the last one." Do-yun nodded slowly. "How many Vthrani ships did we take with us?" 4 destroyed, 8 damaged. Good. He looked at his crew. The survivors were battered and bloody, but they had not given up. They had fought to the end. "You all served with honor. I am proud to have been your captain." "It has been an honor to serve with you, sir," Jisoo replied. Baek Sunho's voice came over the intercom one last time. "Captain, the reactor is failing. 30 seconds until shutdown." "Thank you, Sunho, for everything." The Vthrani fleet surrounded the Resolve. High Marshal Torvin watched on his display as the small human ship finally stopped moving. Her lights flickered and died. She was finished. "Destroy it," Torvin ordered. "Leave nothing but dust." 12 weapons fired at once. The Resolve vanished in a storm of fire. Captain Park Do-hyun, Lieutenant Commander Yoon Jisoo, Chief Engineer Baek Sunho, and every other crew member died together. They had bought minutes for the convoy, but it had not been enough. No one had escaped. High Marshal Torvin made a satisfied sound. The operation was complete. 2,317 humans were dead. The message had been sent. "Set course for home," he commanded. "This sector is clean." The Vthrani fleet entered hyperspace and vanished. Behind them, they left only debris and silence. Bodies floated in the cold vacuum. Pieces of ships tumbled slowly through the darkness. The Kira expanse had become a graveyard. No one would find this place for hours. By then, the Vthrani would be safe behind their borders, confident in their power. They believed they had taught humanity a lesson. They believed the matter was finished. But somewhere in the darkness, a tiny beacon was traveling at incredible speed toward human space. It carried images and sensor data. It carried proof. And it carried the faces of everyone who had died. The galaxy was about to learn what humanity did when their people were murdered. Outpost Sigma 7 was a small station on the edge of human space. It was built into an asteroid, hidden from casual observation, and staffed by only 20 people. Their job was simple: listen to signals from deep space and report anything unusual to Earth Command. Communications Officer Choi Hana was working the night shift. She was 26 years old with short black hair and tired eyes. Night shifts were boring. Nothing ever happened. She spent most of her time drinking tea and reading novels on her personal tablet. At Aero 347 station time, her console made a sound she had never heard before. An emergency beacon had arrived. Hana put down her tea and looked at the signal data. It was compressed and encrypted, marked with military codes. The beacon came from the Kira expanse, thousands of light-years away. The sender was identified as the UESS Resolve. She did not recognize the ship name, but the emergency codes were real. Someone was in trouble. "Computer," she said, "decode the signal and display contents." The computer worked for 30 seconds. Then the main screen lit up with images. Hana stopped breathing. She saw a convoy under attack. She saw warships with Vthrani markings. She saw cargo vessels explode. She saw a passenger liner break apart. She saw escape pods targeted and destroyed. She saw children die. The footage lasted 12 minutes. When it ended, Hana realized she was crying. Her hands were shaking so badly that she almost could not operate her console. She sent the signal to Earth immediately, using the highest priority channel available. Then she sat in the dark and tried to understand what she had just witnessed. 2,000 people, murdered, for no reason. Within an hour, the signal reached Luna Station, the headquarters of the United Earth Space Navy. Admiral Seo Taiyang was asleep in his quarters when his aide woke him with the news. "What is it?" Taiyang asked. He was 54 years old with a calm face and gray hair cut very short. He had been a soldier for 30 years. He had seen terrible things. "Sir, we have received an emergency transmission. You need to see this." They went to the command center. The staff there were already watching the footage in silence. Some were crying. Some looked sick. One young officer had left the room to vomit. Taiyang watched the entire recording without moving. His face showed nothing, but his hands, clasped behind his back, were white with tension. When the footage ended, he spoke quietly. "Do we have confirmation this is real?" "Yes, sir. The beacon codes match the resolve. The sensor data is authentic. This happened approximately 6 hours ago. Have we recovered any survivors?" "Negative, sir. A patrol ship is en route to the location, but preliminary scans show no life signs." Taeyang closed his eyes for a moment. He thought about Captain Park Do-hyun, a name he did not recognize. He thought about the 300 civilians on that passenger liner. He thought about the escape pods being destroyed one by one. "Contact the president," he said, "and wake up every member of the Security Council. This cannot wait until morning." President Kang Min-seo had been in office for 3 years. She was a practical woman, an economist by training, known for her careful approach to problems. She had never wanted war. She had spent her career building trade agreements and diplomatic relationships with other races. She believed that cooperation was better than conflict. But when she watched the footage from the Kira expanse, something changed in her eyes. The Security Council gathered in an emergency session. 20 of the most powerful humans in the galaxy sat around a long table and watched their people die. No one spoke. No one could find words. Finally, the Foreign Secretary broke the silence. "The Galactic Concord will condemn this attack. We should file a formal complaint through diplomatic channels. There are procedures." "Procedures," President Kang interrupted. Her voice was soft, but it cut through the room like a blade. "You want to file paperwork. Our children are dead, and you want to file paperwork. Madam President, I understand your anger, but we must be careful. The Vthrani are powerful. If we respond with force, we could start a war that humanity cannot win." Admiral Taeyang leaned forward. "Madam President, if I may." "Speak, Admiral." "Humanity has been in the Galactic Concord for 60 years. In that time, we have been patient. We have been diplomatic. We have smiled and nodded when other races called us primitive. We have accepted insults and restrictions because we were told that was the cost of peace." He paused. "The Vthrani just murdered over 2,000 of our civilians. They targeted escape pods. They killed children. And they did it because they believe we are weak. They believe we will accept it. What do you recommend?" "I recommend we show them how wrong they are." The Secretary of Defense pulled up a classified file. 3 years ago, we began a secret military expansion program. We call it Project Silent Thunder. The other races believe we have 40 combat vessels. The actual number is 412, including 12 Dreadnought-class warships. The council members stared at the numbers in shock. Even some of them had not known the true size of human military power. "We hid our strength," the secretary continued, "because we did not want to frighten our allies or provoke our enemies. But we prepared for a day like this. We hoped it would never come." President Kang looked around the table. She saw anger in every face. She saw grief and horror, but she also saw resolve. "If we do this," she said slowly, "we will be revealing our true military capability to the galaxy. Every race will know what we have built. There will be consequences we cannot predict." "With respect, Madam President," Admiral Tae-Yang replied, "the consequences of doing nothing are worse. If we let this attack go unanswered, every hostile race in the galaxy will know they can murder humans without punishment. Our colonies will never be safe. Our people will never be safe." Kang nodded slowly. She looked at the frozen image on the screen, a young girl's face, caught in the moment before an escape pod exploded. The girl was about the same age as her own daughter. "Vote," the president said. "All in favor of full military authorization against the Vthrani Dominion." 20 hands rose. The vote was unanimous. President Kang stood up. "Admiral Tae-Yang, you have command of all military forces. Make the Vthrani understand what they have done. Make sure the galaxy never forgets." "Yes, Madam President," Tae-Yang saluted. Then he turned and walked out of the room. He had work to do. Within hours, orders went out to every human military installation. Ships that had been hiding in asteroid fields and secret bases began to move. Crews that had been training in simulation chambers were called to active duty. Weapons that had never been fired in combat were loaded and armed. The Vthrani believed humanity would take years to respond. They believed they were safe behind their defensive lines. They believed they had won. They were about to learn a terrible truth. Humanity did not forget, humanity did not forgive, and when you murdered their children, humanity came for you with everything they had. The largest military fleet in human history was preparing to move, and the galaxy was about to watch. The Vthrani Dominion had ruled their section of the galaxy for 3,000 years. They had conquered 12 species and controlled 17 star systems. Their military was famous for being unbeatable. No enemy had ever reached their homeworld. No enemy had ever come close. High Marshal Torvin sat in his command chamber on Vthros Prime, reading reports and drinking warm blood wine. The attack on the human convoy had gone perfectly. Intelligence suggested that humans were arguing among themselves about how to respond. Some wanted war. Some wanted diplomacy. By the time they decided anything, the matter would be forgotten. His aide entered the chamber. The young officer looked nervous. "Hi, Marshal. Our border sensors have detected something unusual." "What kind of unusual?" "Energy signatures, many of them, approaching the 3rd defense line." Torvin frowned. "How many signatures?" The aide swallowed hard. "Over 400, sir. They appear to be warships." The blood wine glass shattered in Torvin's grip. Admiral Seo Tae-Yang stood on the bridge of the UESS Fury of Seoul, the largest warship humanity had ever built. She was 2 kilometers long, bristling with weapons that other races did not know existed. She had been built in secret, hidden in a hollowed-out moon, waiting for the day when humanity needed her. That day had come. Around the Fury of Seoul, the human armada spread across space like a storm. 412 warships, organized into 7 fleets, heavy cruisers and destroyers, carrier groups launching thousands of fighters, support vessels carrying enough supplies for a prolonged campaign. It was the greatest concentration of military force in human history. "All ships report ready," Admiral, Vice Admiral Oh Ji-yeon reported. She commanded the 2nd Fleet, positioned on the Armada's left flank. She was 41 years old, a veteran of 3 smaller conflicts, known for her aggressive tactics. "3rd Fleet standing by," Commodore Lee Jung-hwan added. His carrier groups were positioned to provide fighter support across the entire battle line. Admiral Tae-Yang looked at the tactical display. The Vthrani defensive line was ahead, a network of weapons platforms and patrol ships designed to stop any invasion. Intelligence said it had never been breached. "Signal all ships," Taeyang ordered. "Begin the attack." The human fleet moved forward. Weapons charged. Fighters launched. And the Vthrani discovered that everything they believed about humanity was wrong. Human weapons were not primitive. Human tactics were not simple. Human soldiers were not weak. The battle began with a wave of missiles, thousands of them, fired from every ship in the fleet. The Vthrani defense platforms tried to intercept them, but there were too many. Explosions blossomed across the defensive line. Shields failed. Stations crumbled. Then the heavy cruisers moved in. Their main cannons fired beams of concentrated energy that cut through Vthrani armor like paper. Ships that had fought 100 battles died in seconds. Captain Shin Ha-yoon commanded the destroyer Swift Wind. She was only 30 years old, the youngest ship captain in the fleet. She had volunteered to lead the first assault wave. "Target that command platform," she ordered, pointing at the largest structure in the defensive line. "If we destroy it, their coordination will collapse." The Swift Wind dove through a storm of enemy fire, weaving between larger ships, too fast to track. Ha-yoon's hands flew across her console, making micro-adjustments to their course. Her crew worked in perfect silence, trusting their captain completely. "Firing solution locked." "Fire." 6 torpedoes launched from the Swift Wind and struck the command platform's reactor core. The explosion was enormous. The defensive line's central hub vanished in a ball of fire. Without coordination, the Vthrani defense fell apart. Ships that should have supported each other fought alone. Platforms that should have covered each other's blind spots were exposed. The human fleet punched through the defensive line in less than an hour. On Vthros Prime, High Marshal Torven received the reports with growing horror. The third defense line had fallen. The second defense line was under attack. Human ships were advancing faster than anyone had predicted. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "Our intelligence said humans had 40 warships. Where did this fleet come from?" No one could answer him. "Recall all patrol fleets," Torven ordered. "Every ship we have. We will make our stand at the first defense line, around the homeworld itself. They cannot break through if we concentrate all our forces." The Vthrani fleet gathered around Vthros Prime. 300 warships, the entire remaining military of the Dominion. They formed a defensive sphere around their world, bristling with weapons, ready to die for their home. Admiral Taeyang studied the enemy formation on his display. The Vthrani were good soldiers. They had chosen a strong defensive position. This battle would not be easy. "Admiral," Vice Admiral O said, "we have a clear advantage, but breaking that formation will cost us many ships. Do you want to negotiate? Perhaps they will surrender." "Contact them," Taeyang agreed. "Offer terms." A communication channel opened. High Marshal Torven's face appeared on the screen. He looked older than his official portraits, and there was fear in his black eyes, but his voice was still proud. "Humans, you have come far, but you will go no further. We will destroy your fleet here, and then we will burn your colonies one by one. This is your only warning. Turn back or be annihilated." Admiral Taeyang looked at the Vthrani commander for a long moment. Then he spoke. 11 days ago, your ships attacked a civilian convoy in the Kira Expanse. They killed 2,317 people, families, children, medical personnel carrying medicine to a dying colony. Your pilots targeted escape pods. They murdered survivors. Torven's expression flickered. "That was a military operation. There were no military targets in that convoy." Taeyang's voice was cold. "You attacked civilians. You killed children. And now you threaten to burn our colonies? We are the Vthrani Dominion. We have ruled this galaxy for 3,000 years. You are insects. You are nothing." We are humans. Taeyang leaned forward. And we remember our dead. The communication ended. All ships, Admiral Taeyang commanded. Attack. The Battle of Vthros Prime lasted 9 hours. It was the largest space battle the galaxy had ever seen. Human ships and Vthrani ships fought at close range, trading fire, ramming each other when weapons failed. Fighters dueled between the massive warships. Explosions lit the darkness around the planet. Captain Shin Hayun and the Swift Wind led a strike group directly into the heart of the Vthrani formation. They destroyed 11 enemy ships before a torpedo finally caught them. Hayun ordered her crew to abandon ship seconds before the Swift Wind exploded. 70 of her 100 crew members survived. Commodore Li Zhonghwan's carrier group lost half its fighters breaking through the enemy line, but they destroyed the Vthrani flagship's shield generators, leaving it exposed. Vice Admiral Oh Ji-yeon personally commanded the assault on that flagship. Her ship, the Indomitable, exchanged fire with the Iron Dominion at point-blank range. Both ships were heavily damaged. But the human vessel's weapons were stronger. The Iron Dominion broke apart. High Marshal Torvin died in the explosion, along with his entire command staff. Without their leader, the Vthrani fleet began to crumble. Ships surrendered. Others tried to flee and were captured. By the 9th hour, it was over. The defensive sphere around Vthros Prime had been shattered. Admiral Taeyang stood on his bridge and looked at the planet below. 10 billion Vthrani civilians looked up at the sky and saw human warships where their own fleet should have been. "Signal all ships," Taeyang ordered. "Cease fire. Take defensive positions around the planet. No one fires unless I give the order." "Sir?" Vice Admiral O sounded confused. "We could bombard their cities. End this war in minutes." "No." Taeyang's voice was firm. "We came here for justice. Not genocide. There is a difference." The human fleet took position above Vthros Prime. Their weapons were pointed at the planet. They had won. The Vthrani Dominion was defeated. Now came the harder part. The Vthrani ruling council gathered in the great hall of their ancient capital. They were the leaders of their civilization, old and powerful, accustomed to giving orders and being obeyed. Now they sat in silence, watching the human warships through the tall windows. The sky was full of enemies. Human ships blotted out the stars. Weapons platforms hung motionless, their cannons pointed at the city. Everyone knew that a single order from the human admiral could turn Vthros Prime into a dead world. Admiral Seo Taeyang walked into the great hall alone. He wore his formal uniform, decorated with medals he had earned over 30 years of service. His face showed nothing. He looked at the Vthrani leaders the way a man might look at insects. "Where is High Marshal Torvin?" one of the council members demanded. His voice shook, but he was trying to sound brave. "Dead," Taeyang replied simply. "His flagship was destroyed during the battle, along with most of your fleet." Silence. "You have won," another council member said. She was older than the others, her gray skin wrinkled with age. "What do you want? Revenge? Are you here to destroy our world?" That would be the easy choice. Taeyang walked to the center of the hall. He looked up at the paintings on the walls, images of Vthrani glory and conquest. "Your people have spent 3,000 years building an empire through violence. You conquered the weak. You enslaved the helpless. You believed that power was the only thing that mattered." "It is the way of the galaxy," the old woman said. "The strong rule. The weak serve." "Perhaps." Taeyang turned to face her. "But you made a mistake. You thought humans were weak. You thought you could murder our children and face no consequences. We were told your species was divided, that you argued among yourselves, that you could not agree on anything." "We argue about many things," Taeyang admitted. "We debate and discuss and disagree. But there is one thing all humans agree on, across every nation and every colony and every political faction. His voice hardened. We protect our own. We remember our dead. And we do not forgive those who harm our children. The council members looked at each other. They had expected an ultimatum. They had expected demands for territory, for resources, for submission. That was how wars ended in their experience. "What do you want?" the old woman asked again. Tai Yang pulled a data chip from his pocket and placed it on the table. "This contains a list of every individual who participated in the attack on Convoy Echo 7, ship commanders, weapons officers, anyone who fired on a civilian vessel or targeted an escape pod. We want them surrendered to human custody to stand trial for war crimes." "Trial?" A council member snorted. "You mean execution?" "I mean trial. Fair trial. With evidence and lawyers and judges. If they are found guilty, they will be punished according to law. If they are innocent, they will be released." Tai Yang paused. "This is what justice looks like." "I do not expect you to understand it." "What else?" "Complete military disarmament. Your remaining warships will be decommissioned. Your weapons factories will be converted to civilian production. You will be allowed to keep a small defense force, enough to protect against pirates, but nothing more." "You would leave us helpless," another council member protested. "You are already helpless. We destroyed your entire military in 11 days. We could have destroyed your civilization in 11 more. Instead, we are offering you terms." Tai Yang leaned forward. "Accept them. Rebuild your society. Teach your children to be better than their parents. In a generation or two, perhaps you will be worthy of respect." The council argued among themselves. Some wanted to fight to the death, others wanted to flee, but in the end, they had no real choice. The human fleet above their world could end everything in moments. They accepted the terms. News of the Vthrani surrender spread across the galaxy within hours. Other races watched the broadcasts in shock. The Vthrani Dominion, one of the oldest and most powerful civilizations in known space, had been defeated in less than 2 weeks. Defeated by humans, a species that most races had dismissed as primitive newcomers. The Galactic Concord called an emergency session. Ambassadors from dozens of species gathered to discuss what had happened. Fear was the dominant emotion. If humanity could destroy the Vthrani so quickly, what else could they do? Who might be next? Ambassador No Sujin walked into the assembly hall and felt the weight of every eye upon her. She was 43 years old, a career diplomat, trained to speak carefully and never show emotion. But today she allowed herself to stand straight and proud. "The representative of Earth is recognized," the assembly moderator announced. Sujin walked to the central platform. Holographic images floated around her, showing the faces of every ambassador in attendance. Some looked afraid, some looked hostile. A few, representatives of species that had also suffered under Vthrani aggression, looked hopeful. "Many of you are wondering what happens now," Sujin began. "You have seen the power of our fleet. You are afraid that humanity will use this power to conquer, to dominate, to become the new Vthrani." Murmurs rippled through the assembly. "Let me be clear." Sujin's voice was calm but firm. "Humanity does not seek empire. We do not desire conquest. We came to the stars hoping to find friendship, knowledge, and wonder. We joined the Galactic Concord because we believed in cooperation and peace." "Then why did you attack the Vthrani?" an ambassador demanded. "Because they murdered our children." Sujin's composure cracked for just a moment. "They attacked a convoy of civilians. Families going to build new lives on a colony world. Doctors carrying medicine to the sick. Children who had done nothing wrong." She paused. "And when those people tried to escape, tried to flee in tiny pods designed only for survival, Vthrani ships hunted them down and killed them. Not soldiers, not warriors, civilians." The assembly was silent. "We did not start this conflict," We did not want it. But when the Vthrani made it clear that they would murder innocent humans without consequence, we had no choice but to respond. Sujin looked around the hall. And we chose to respond not with genocide, not with destruction, but with justice. The Vthrani homeworld still exists. Their civilians are unharmed. Those responsible for the massacre will face fair trials. This is not revenge. This is accountability. You expect us to believe that? Another ambassador challenged. You have the most powerful fleet in the galaxy. Why would you not use it? Because power without wisdom is just violence. Sujin thought of her own children, safe on Earth. She thought of the children who had died in the Kira expanse. Humanity has learned many hard lessons in our history. We have seen what happens when powerful nations crush weaker ones without mercy. We have seen the long-term costs of cruelty and conquest. We choose a different path. She stepped forward, her voice gaining strength. Let this be understood by every civilization in the galaxy. Earth does not seek to rule over you. We do not want to be feared, but we will not be victims. We will not be targets, and we will never, ever abandon our people. She paused. The Vthrani learned this lesson. We hope no one else needs to learn it the hard way. The assembly session lasted for many more hours, but the essential message had been delivered. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was not primitive. Humanity was a sleeping giant that had finally been awakened. Back on Earth, the world stopped to remember the dead. Memorials were built in every major city. The names of all 2,317 victims were read aloud in ceremonies across the planet. Captain Park Do-yun, Lieutenant Commander Yoon Ji-soo, Chief Engineer Baek Sun-ho, Dr. Kim Eun-ji, Han Mi-young and her children, Sarah and June. Every name, every face, every story. Admiral Seo Tai-yang attended the memorial in Seoul. He stood in the crowd with ordinary citizens, refusing any special treatment. When a reporter asked him how he felt about being called a hero, he shook his head. The heroes are the ones who died, he said. Captain Park and his crew, who fought against impossible odds to buy time for the convoy. Dr. Kim, who stayed behind to help the injured instead of saving herself. The parents who held their children close as the end came. He looked at the wall of names carved in stone. I just finished what they started. In the years that followed, humanity's place in the galaxy transformed. Other races began seeking human alliance. Former enemies became cautious partners. Trade agreements multiplied. Scientific cooperation expanded. The galaxy was not a safer place, but humanity had earned respect. And across known space, a saying spread from world to world, repeated by 100 different species in 100 different languages. Some said it with fear, some said it with admiration, some said it as a warning to anyone who might consider harming human civilians. Humanity remembers its dead, and humanity protects its own. The stars were quiet again, but they would never forget.